for your argument and support it with logical reasoning and supporting evidence. Okay, so how well do you argue? Don't think about arguing as yelling your viewpoint to someone. Again, you have to be respectful because the person grading your test may not have the same idea that you have. And so successful arguments state a claim about a debatable topic. It's a debatable topic because there's not a right or wrong belief. And you give evidence and you explain how your evidence supports the claim. If you're talking about zoo animals and your claim is that no animals should be allowed in the zoos, they should all be in the wild, and you give examples that animals might be bored, that animals do not develop their full instincts while living in a zoo, you also have to explain where you're getting that from. Is it from the articles? Is it something that you have personally experienced? And make sure that your evidence goes back to the claim. Don't accidentally write something for a detail that goes against what it is that you're saying. So you would not want to claim that it's important for students and children to be able to see and learn about animals. Because if you're claiming that no animals should be in the zoo, you've now actually created a detail that goes against what you were originally saying. So, building a strong argument means you're focused on logical thinking. Do not go off on a tangent about something that has nothing to do with the topic. Do not go into something where somebody reading it without you being there would need a lot of explanation about what you're talking about. Make sure it's logical, make sure you can understand it, and make sure that it actually supports what you're talking about. The process of arguing requires analyzing data. So for you, the data may be the information that they provide for you in the articles. When building arguments about what we read, we become more critical readers. So again, if you're planning on using information from the articles, you need to read them carefully. So this is not a time to skim the articles. You need to read them as critical readers. You need to look for information that you agree with. You need to look for information that you disagree with. And so effective arguments help us make choices based on solid facts. As you're reading the articles, keep an open mind. You may find that as you're reading those, your beliefs on the topic change, and that could happen. So as you go in, keep in mind and look for things that support the way you feel and things that go against the way you feel. As productive citizens, we need to analyze opinions before making decisions for our community. So again, this is where it comes into you need to be respectful. And you need to make sure that you are not using words or sentences that are disrespectful about somebody who has a different belief as you do. So let's start with what is an argument. So examples of an argument would be school uniforms are needed in middle school. Kids should be in a school Monday through Saturday. Students should be allowed to use cell phones in the classroom, or the legal age of driving should be 18. Teachers should wear mood rings. So these are examples of things that someone could argue for or against. There is no right or wrong answer. So that's why when you're developing your argument, you have to know where you're coming from, and you also need to have an idea of where someone who disagrees with you is coming from. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to come up with your claim. And your claim is just your argument. So is it clear? Is it defensible? And it's controversial because there's opposing viewpoints, not because it's controversial in a bad way. It just means when we say that there's not a right or wrong answer again, and somebody else may feel differently than you do. So when you're stating your claim, so for example, if you're saying that we should have no zoos, all animals should live in the wild, you need to state that claim and make it clear. The audience should know exactly where you stand. Let them know, I believe they should be in the wild. Don't just say they don't belong in zoos, because that leaves other openings for things like places that might have like safaris and drive-through zoos, or oceans of fun, other places that animals could be besides just a typical zoo. So I need for my argument to be clear. I need to clearly state animals should live in the wild and should not be confined in zoos or other places. Is it defensible? Can you support your claim with evidence? If you have no proof and there's no evidence to support that claim, you need to change your claim. Make sure that what you have is you have to have evidence to support it. Now, in the case that you sit down and read 2 articles and your beliefs are not supported in those claims, you still have to write an argumentative essay. So this is a great time to start thinking from someone else's point of view. You have to do this whether you agree with the articles or not. And again, controversial just means that there's an opposing viewpoint. So we're going to skip through this part. So now it comes down to the evidence. Just because I have a claim, if I cannot support it with evidence, then I can't write an argumentative essay about it. So for my evidence, the data must be supported in the claim. So it needs to include facts or statistics. You're probably looking more at facts, but because of the articles that you're reading. It might have an expert opinion, but in your case, you're not going to be doing a lot of researching. So most of yours is going to come from the articles they've given you or from personal experience. You're not going to have time to be doing research. Okay, so here's our claim. Zoos do more harm than good. Now my evidence. So things that might have come from the story. Enclosed structures cause boredom. Animals have no privacy. Breeding animals in captivity is unnatural. Now, I would have to ask myself, are all of this evidence supporting the claim I had? If I accidentally put something down here that says students need to be able to see animals up close, that's not supporting my claim. And so I would not want to include that in my essay. So again, arguments need support. Okay, so examples of that, let's go to the claim that kids should not have to go to school on Saturdays. So evidence to support that would be students need rest, students have jobs they might need to do on Saturday, and also that family time is important. That all of those support the idea that students should not be going to school on Saturdays. Now the next part is your warrant. This is an explanation of why your evidence leads to the claim that you made. So look, for example, your warrant. So for our claim would be, I should get the worm. The evidence is I'm the early bird. So let's look at how that would come together as a complete thought. Since I was the first bird to flee the nest, which is our evidence, I expended more energy than the rest of the birds. There is your warrant, and I need the worm now. Here is your claim. And so it's important that you include that link between how your evidence and your claim are connected. That'll make a little bit more sense as you're reading and as you look at some of the example writings. Okay, so now we have to think about our counter argument that expresses the opposite point of view. So instead of saying that school uniforms are needed in middle school, you would say the opposite of that would be that school uniforms are not needed in middle school. Students should not be in school Monday through Saturday, the one we just talked about. So the counter argument for our zoo claim would be that zoo animals should be in zoos, or we should be able to view animals in the zoo and not just in the wild. So that's kind of like your rebuttal. And again, you need to address the counter argument. You need to express that you understand what the other side would be thinking, and then kind of do a rebuttal on why your side is still better. So you're looking at what someone else's convincing points might be, okay? Do not express it better than you did your own claim, though. You don't want to accidentally convince someone against your viewpoint. Okay, so you just want to think, okay, what would someone who disagrees with me might say? Think about a brother or sister. If you're trying to convince your parents of something and your brother or sister doesn't want you to get to do it, what might they say to convince your parents you're wrong? And then there's just your response. Your response is, I have addressed the counter argument, but here's why my viewpoint is still correct. So for an example, if you're going in to talk to your parents and you want to stay overnight at a friend's house, you've stated your claim to your parents, and you give evidence to them on why you should get to stay. You're also going to kind of be savvy, and you're going to say that I know that I have an early basketball game tomorrow, but my friend is on the same basketball team, and his mom has already agreed to take us. Or you might tell your parents, Mom and Dad, I really would like to spend the night with my friend. It's his birthday and he's my best friend, and he came to my birthday party, so I feel like I should go to his. I know I have an early basketball game tomorrow, but my friend has an early soccer game, and so his parents will make sure that we're up and both ready to go on time. So you want to address what's the main point that someone might argue against you, and you still need to go in, address it, but then explain why you're still correct. And you want to finish strong, okay? So you want to make sure, so far you should have stated your claim, provided evidence about your claim, supported the claim with that warrant, that connecting sentence, and addressed the counter argument. So once you've done all of this, you're going to sum it up and you're going to conclude that. And all that is, again, it's restating you're going to think of that as a paragraph. You're going to restate your claim, list your most, your best evidence that is the strongest for supporting your claim. And then you're going to explain why this even matters, okay? Why is this something that anyone should even be concerned about? So now let's go back to our week, which is plenty of time. If you have questions, you may contact your teacher. Thanks.